is this? This is a weed. I've spent a lot of time scrolling different movie sites, you know, whether it be like Netflix or Tubi or really any of them. I don't, is Sling still a thing? I don't know. But every time I end up deep in the horror section, and I feel like I always stumble upon these movies, and they just call out to me. The movies, of course, are Evil Bong. And honestly, after years of scrolling these sites and, you know, skipping past it, thinking like, God, I could never watch that, right? I don't know. I guess after a while, it just finally got to me because I am watching every Evil Bong movie ever made and ranking them based on epic and awesomeness because they are epic and awesome. So to start off, there are 9 Evil Bong movies, technically 10, but we'll get into that later. Now, I didn't really process that when I decided to make this video and started setting everything up. If you didn't know, I choose these topics on an incredibly light whim and then get 10 hours in and question why I even thought this was a good idea in the first place. This was not a good idea. Like I was saying though, there are 9 of these movies in total, starting all the way back in 2006 with Evil Bong, and then the most recent being Evil Bong 888 Infinity High, released in 2022, and that is the final one. They're not making any more. You'll understand why once we get to like movie 3. From a first glance even, I couldn't imagine that these were gonna be great. They gave me really big Leprechaun vibes if you've ever seen those movies, you know, like Leprechaun in the Hood. I don't know, did I mention I watched them all in one sitting? Because I don't know why I decided to do that. Prisk in the past, fuck you. Why did I do that? Why did I? That was the worst decision of my life. I'm gonna give a longer rundown of this first movie just so we kind of all understand the lore, right? Because unfortunately, Evil Bong has lore. So without further ado, here's the start of our dive into the Evil Bong series. Help me. Evil Bong 1, released in 2006, follows this dude named Alistair, who's this like lame, like geek, loser, nerd kid. You know, he likes to study. And you know, he's kind of down on his luck, right? He needs a new place to live. So he moves in with these stoner bros, Bachman, Brett, and Larnell. Fucking Larnell, really? Bachman is the stereotypical surfer stoner dude, you know, all seashells and rainbows and shit. Brett is like a baseball player who just cares way too much about his trophies. And Larnell's just kind of there. The other two have their own like stoner stereotype thing, and he's just kind of here. He becomes a conspiracy theorist later, but this first one, he's here, you know. Larnell pulls out this magazine and points out that with Al's, I'm gonna call Alistair Al from now on because it's shorter, points out that with Al's new rent money, they can buy this sick-ass bong in there. Keep in mind, Al's rent is $40 a week, so I guess the bong is like 40 bucks. I don't know. They read through the ad and it says recently deceased owner believes it's possessed, which I find kind of funny. Can you imagine you're scrolling on like Zillow or something and the listing says like recently deceased owner believes that there were 3 poltergeists constantly throwing things at him in the attic. But it's only 80 down, so I mean, it's kind of a steal. Wait, that's actually a genius idea. Haunted house flipper, HGTV? I'm waiting for you. They buy the bong, and when it arrives, we meet this weird little dude who I'm starting to suspect is not with the UPS.
It's the item you've been waiting for.
This guy's name is Rabbit, and he becomes important later, but for now, he just kind of leaves, right? They unbox this monster of a bong and immediately start ripping from it, and you know, all seems well, right? Also, this thing is huge. This thing is the size of like a toddler. Why is it so big? Everything seems nice until Bachman's like late one night repping it alone, and his soul starts to get sucked into the evil-ass weed dimension. He just like... Now he's in the evil-ass weed dimension. Unfortunately, I can't show a lot of it because it's a strip club, right? Like, it's just a strip club, which is a very common theme throughout this movie. Be prepared to use your imagination because I can't show a lot of it. Bachman's living the high life here, right? He's loving it until some ominous little dude walks up to him and goes like, hey man, be wary of the women in here. He obviously doesn't heed the warning at all, so he gets killed by some skeleboobs. I don't know what you'd call these. It's kind of cool. It looks like a Party City outfit. I don't know, but yeah, it kills him, and now he's dead in real life too. If you die in the evil-ass weed dimension, you die in real life. The rest of the boys find him the next morning, and they're panicking. They're like, oh shit, Bachman's fucking dead, dude. They start running around trying to find a good spot to hide him, but right as they do, they hear a knock at the door, and it's none other than Larnell's grandpa.
Ah, shut up, you pathetic louts.
He's like this super rich dude who used to give Larnell a ton of money to go to law school until he dropped out, and now he spends 99% of every second of his screen time bashing Larnell.
Just an utter waste of human skin.
Fair enough. If my grandchild was named Larnell, I'd probably make fun of him too. I'm sorry if your name's Larnell and you're watching this video, but don't think that's a good name. But Grandpa came over this time to show off his newfound gorgeous wife, Rose, who I think is directly from the Titanic. They hid Bachman before he came in, so luckily they avoid all the suspicion, and Grandpa leaves, right? Also, apparently their main worry about Bachman being dead was not that he was dead. They weren't really that sad. They were worried that it was gonna ruin Brett's party and make the girls not like them. Cool fucking friends, Bachman. You know how to pick them well, Jesus Christ. Larnell starts talking to the bong. He forms some weird, like, romantic interest in the bong in this movie. I don't know. He gets kind of weird with it. Also, it can talk.
Damn straight, baby.
Also, it has a face. Don't know why. I mean, it is one evil-ass bong, but like, yeah, it has a face. I forgot to mention that. That's the cover art. Isn't she a beaut? She tricks him into taking another hit with her sultry voice. And he also gets sucked into the evil-ass weed dimension. Once he gets there, we find out Bachman isn't actually dead, and he's just been kind of chilling here, and he's like, dude, this place fucking rocks, man. Also, she like has like an actual face. Anyways, Larnell starts exploring the place before running into the Gingerdead Man from the 2005 movie Gingerdead Man. Remember him for later because he starts showing up a lot. Also, apparently the bong's name is EB. I don't know if that's important at all. I think it just stands for Evil Bong, but all I can think of is EB Games from Canada, if anybody remembers that. He gets eaten by shark boobies, and he's slumped now like Bachman. I really like how anytime they need to transition like scenes or go to a new character, they have these like really over-the-top weed-related transition shots with like this super weed-related song in the background, and I don't know, it kind of kept my attention really well. It was like jingling keys in front of me. I think it actually really helped the pacing of the movie. The rest of the movie kind of follows this formula. You know, the girls come over and everyone but Al takes a rip and gets sucked in, and then Chong from Cheech and Chong walks in and he gives an info dump on how to save his friend because this used to be my bong, man. Yeah, this was mine, man. He convinces Alistair to go in to rescue his friend, so Alistair takes a rip and gets sucked in. While he's in there, he gives Evie a speech about how people should be able to get high, how they want, when they want, and where they want. You tell him, Al. You tell him. I feel like the bong probably agrees with you, but yeah, you tell him, man. He goes in and gets Janet out of there. Janet's one of the two girls. It's Janet and Luann. He has the hots for Janet, and Luann is dating Brett. Luann shows up a lot more, so keep her in your mind palace. But he gets everybody out of there, and unfortunately, while he was in there, Evie tricked Chong into taking a hit, so he gets sucked in. But it looks like he actually tricked her because he has a fucking bomb strapped to his chest. He walks in, he's like, this is the last time you'll trick me, man. And then he opens his shirt. It's just a fucking bomb. Luckily, everyone makes it out alive, except for Chong, who gets stuck there forever, but now he's like the leader of the evil-ass weed dimension or something. I don't know, but the end. That was definitely a movie. To be honest, it wasn't bad. I don't know. I'm used to these kinds of shitty stoner movies, so as far as those go, it wasn't the worst I'd ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the best, but I don't think it was the worst. I actually really liked the characters, surprisingly. I really liked that while Alistar was like this whole nerd that they like kind of messed with, you know, they were like, dude, you're such a nerd, bro. They were never mean to him. They were always bros with him. And I actually really liked that because they don't do that a lot in movies. And like, they even helped him try to get that girl. Like, they were really looking out for him. I also like that they weren't too cheesy over the top of the dialogue. There was never any shots like some like Marvel-ass shots where he was like, guys, you're gonna want to see this. Like, there was never anything like that. There was honestly not a lot of like conversational humor at all. It was mostly just the absurdity of what was happening. I thought that was pretty refreshing, I say, about a movie that came out in 2006. But I don't know. I still think my favorite part was the transition shots. They really were like jangling keys or like the dancing fruit video. It's like I was locked in whenever that would happen. I really didn't hate it at all. I'm kind of honestly hopeful for the rest of the series if this is how the first one is. But now it's time for the graph. Now, I've crafted us this beautiful, one-of-a-kind evil bong meter, patent pending, don't steal this, where I'll be rating all these movies based on how much I enjoyed them. Now, I did these rankings while I was watching the movie, so I'm gonna base this off of that. But at the time of watching only the first one, I put this one at about a B, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't amazing. I wouldn't recommend somebody watch it or anything, but if I knew a friend liked stoner comedies, I'd be like, hey, have you checked out Evil Bong? It was kind of funny. You know what I mean? To break down this graph a little bit further, S tier is like, oh my fucking God, this movie changed my life. I need to tell everybody to watch this movie. Christ came to me and it was on the screen. You know what I mean? Like, that's S tier, that's oh my God. And then on the flip side, F tier is like, oh my God, why did they make this movie? Seriously, I would have paid these people to not make this movie. This movie fucking sucks, right? I do want to give a big caveat before we go to the rest of this list. All of these rankings are largely based around each other, if that makes sense, because once I got to like movie 3, I felt like I couldn't even rank these to other movies. You know, I couldn't even like compare these to just other movies because they are so in their own category of dog shit. I don't know how else to describe it. But with that being said, next up is the 2009 release Evil Bong 2 Devil's Harvest, which was actually originally called Evil Bong 2 King Bong, but got renamed and shit, I'm assuming for copyright. Ooh, copyright evil. Ah! Here's the movie. This movie actually feels pretty similar to the original, just with like amplified humor and like a 10% higher budget. And it also actually has a plot, which is really nice, but also pretty foreboding that that's already a positive, that it actually has a plot. Surprisingly, every actor came back except for Alistair. He's a new guy, which I was genuinely really surprised about. They also do reference that it's a new guy, which I kind of like.
Alistair, I almost didn't recognize you.
Because usually with these kinds of B movies, no one comes back. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really comes back. It's like the same universe, but it's a different set of characters. Maybe the lead will come back or something like that, but it never happens. And it was a pleasant surprise. It made me a little hopeful for the rest of the movies. You know what I mean? But a general rundown of the plot is the main dudes from the first one have all kind of gone their separate ways, right? Bachman and Larnell got their own apartment. Brett's down in Florida playing baseball with his girlfriend, now wife, Luann. And Alistair went to do science stuff, right? But sometime in the future, Bachman, Brett, and Larnell all start experiencing heightened side effects of like weed usage. Bachman keeps falling asleep all the time. He gets like really tired all the time. Brett gets really fat. Like wearing the fat suit from fucking Austin Powers. It's really gross, actually. They have him like eating beans and shit throughout the movie, and it's really gross to look at. And then Larnell can't stop humping things. They decide to start looking into Evie some more because they think she has something to do with it, even though they blew her up in the last movie. But they start to research it a little bit more, and they even call up Rabbit, the UPS guy that brought them the bong, who is now like a main character in the movies. He shows up in the rest of them, so I hope you liked this guy. But they slowly discover that this bong was actually made by an ancient Amazonian tribe. Hell yeah. They all decide to fly down to the Amazon to go looking for it. But I really like how they took Rabbit with them, because, I mean, he's just a random UPS guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't really have any plot relevance yet. He's just kind of here. I don't know. I mean, honestly, if I was him, I'd probably say yes to going to the Amazon just for fun, so whatever. They start trekking through the rainforest looking for this tribe, and they run into Felicity, who is down here doing some non-specific, definitely not weed-related research. And they also find that her research partner is Larnell's grandpa. He's here too, guys. He's back. And he's not in a wheelchair. He's kind of a weird character in these movies. I mean, they really just could not figure out what they wanted him to be. Like, in the first one, he was some smarmy asshole, and now he's a smarmy asshole, but he's also selling weed. I don't know. That's whatever, but I guess he's not in a wheelchair anymore, so that's cool. But they slowly uncover that Grandpa is actually betraying Felicity. The weed that they've been researching, he's gonna secretly steal and sell. So Felicity, like, kicks him out of the camp. She's like, fuck you, dude, you're out of here. And so he steals Evie, he steals the shards, and he goes and reforms her to try to, like, use her to get more evil-ass weed. And Rabbit, like, kind of betrays the guys. They don't know about it, though, so they go off thinking that he got captured, so they go to try to save him. They find Evie is back intact, but they also run into my favorite character in all of these movies, the titular King Bong.
Alive? That's bogus!
Cracker, who the fuck you calling bogus?
The thunder is so good. So Evie, the evil Bong, is actually this thing's ex-girlfriend. I don't know, man. I didn't write the script. And she convinces the dudes that he's all evil because she is a Bong once scorned. So she convinces them all to kill him. And this is the first time they really team up with Evie, but this starts to happen more and more in these movies. They get kind of like a love-hate relationship with her at the end. Now, King Bong does have his own weed dimension, but it's a little bit different because instead of just taking your soul like Evie does, he takes the whole thing. You're just fully in there. But the weirdest part is instead of just like killing them and trapping your soul in there, he grabs you and rolls you into a giant doobie.
He's tiny!
I don't know, man. They break free, destroy the bong, and make it out of the evil-ass big weed dimension. Everyone decides to head out. They've all been cured and everything, so there's no point in staying, except for Larnell, who is now dating that Felicity girl, which is an important plot point later. Unfortunately. They kind of just leave the bong there. They don't really address what they did with it. It's just kind of, I guess she's just there now. And yeah, that's the end of the movie. Well, okay, Rabbit turns to God. He turns into a preacher because he didn't like being rolled into a joint and it gave him like a spiritual awakening. But yeah, that's the end of the movie now. To be completely honest, this one felt pretty equal. I would definitely put the first one over this one, but I don't think this one was like bad in comparison, if that makes sense. It felt very even. My notes while watching these movies, I had this one put at like a low C, possibly like D tier, depending on the rest of them. But after finishing all of them and finalizing my notes and everything, I did not realize how terrible these movies were gonna be. Like, I genuinely stopped writing down a ranking for these after, I think, the 4th movie, if that tells you anything. Actually, you know what? I'm bumping 1 up to an A tier, and I'm bumping this one to a B. It's genuinely shocking how quickly this series just nosedives into the ground, you know what I mean? But with that being said, here's Evil Bong 3 Reefer Madness. Now, this movie is the last of the truly evil bong movies, in my opinion. Yes, they're all called evil bong, but this is the last one where they actually like get sucked into an evil bong and have to fight it, right? Which I'm sure is making everyone watching this wonder what the fuck happens in the other 6. And honestly, I don't know either. Your guess is as good as mine. We open up to an intergalactic budsteroid falling down onto Earth that brought a super evil alien bong, and surprisingly enough, all the original dudes came back again, except for Alistair, who's another new actor, 3rd time's the charm, I guess. Larnell and Alistar reunite at the fallen budsteroid. Larnell is this weird conspiracy theorist ninja guy who learned, I believe they called it bong fu, but if they didn't, I am taking full credit for that because that's freaking epic. Bachman and Brett are running their own weed shop, so Larnell and Alistair go there to investigate this weird budsteroid, right? Turns out they already got the alien bong from some dude who sold it to them. He has this whole like side plot about killing his wife, but there's literally no plot significance, and they just ignore it halfway through the movie. Bunch of weed-based hijinks and shenanigans occur, they get all crazy and shit, and eventually they get sucked into the evil-ass intergalactic weed planet. Or Planet Sheen, I don't know. But they have to find their way out. Now this is where, in my opinion, this series starts to take a noticeable first dip. Mostly the set design and quality is obviously a lot lower than the last 2. I mean, you could tell the second they walked into the weed shop that it's like a shitty soundstage room. But that's not even my main gripe with this one. My problem is they start to become exponentially more sex-focused in each of these movies, and this is where you take that first leap. Like the last 2 was supposed to be an evil paradise, so it was strippers and shit. But this one is the aliens capturing humans to steal their seed. I'm not joking. That's the point of this one. Like, this is literally 2 steps away from being a very different kind of movie. I get that the last 2 were like that in a way, but this feels like a serious step away from the previous 2. Oh, also Grandpa is back again, but now he's Dr. Weed and looks like this. I genuinely thought they got Willie Nelson in for a split second, but again, he spends 99% of his screen time just making fun of Larnell.
I enjoy my flare-ups of my genital herpes more than I do seeing your insipid face again.
Also, he has this weird alien nurse lady. She never says a word and just mimes what he says, but I like her a lot. She's got good vibes. She's one of my favorite characters. Anyways, everyone on Planet Sheen is slowly being infected by the alien weed, with Bachman being hit the worst, right? They decide the only way out is to smoke them out, right? By literally smoking Bachman, they light him on fire and just fucking huff the flames. They just set him on fire. This somehow explodes the bong from the inside. I guess they got overheated. I don't know. They all get to escape off screen, right? And the movie just ends, which would have been a good ending for the Evil Bong franchise, now that I think about it. If they had just ended it here, it would have saved us a lot of headache, you know? Also, at this point, they've completely canned the whole the bong takes your spirit and tries to steal your, like, soul or anything. And now all of them, including EB, just take you in completely. Like, none of the bongs have, like, special things about their realm anymore, which is fair enough, you know? Like, whatever. But the movie is over. Overall, kind of like the first 2, this wasn't the worst movie by far. Don't get me wrong. Like, this wasn't the worst. Not even close, right? But it's kind of a sign of the end times for this series. Like, I don't know, I genuinely believe if you like those shitty stoner comedies, the first one was pretty good, I guess, and the second one was like kind of all right. It was kind of fun to see the actors come back, I guess. I liked that. I was surprised that they came back, but this one gets a low C tier from me, but it gets worse and worse from here, I'm telling you. Think of the Evil Bong series as like a really steep flight of stairs. We're on like the 3rd step of 10, and we just hit the stair that's like super slippery because it's, I guess it's winter outside, and we fucking slipped and we're falling. We're falling fast. Fuck the staircase. We just fell into an open chasm. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to explain how bad it is. But with my beautiful analogy out of the way, now it's time for Evil Bong 420. Well, actually, okay. What? Hey guys, Dr. Prisk here. I actually started this movie and got really confused because it's a huge time jump. There's a ton of stuff that just does not line up if you just came from the 3rd movie, right? I started doing some extensive research. As you can see, this is my lab coat. And I started looking a lot further into it, and I found out that there is actually an Evil Bong extended universe. I am not joking. I've found that the universe is surprisingly expansive across the entire Evil Bong cinematic universe. I don't know what you call it. There's technically, I think 25 movies. Now, directly correlated, there's only 11, I think. Keep in mind that my extensive research consists of this one Reddit post that I found talking about it. Only the movies in this video are actually evil bong movies, with one caveat later that we'll get into. But this led me to what is canonically, based on my research, the next movie, Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong. So for some backstory, all of the movies in the Evil Bong cinematic universe are made by this dude, Charles Band. He's kind of like the king of B-movies. I don't know. People love him. He makes a ton. But what he loves is referencing his other movies in the Evil Bong series. I don't know if he does it a lot in his other movies because I'm not watching them, but he does it a lot in these, so be prepared for that. Now, this movie specifically is actually a crossover with the Gingerdead Man series. Remember him from the first movie? He actually has 3 of his own and this crossover. Also, be prepared to not really understand what's going on past this point because I don't really either. Now, apparently, at least in the first movie, Gingerdead Man is played by Gary Busey. The whole point of Gingerdead Man is Gary Busey gets turned into an evil killer gingerbread man. Doesn't that sound riveting? I don't know when exactly the switch is, but at some point in this franchise, Gary Busey stops playing the Gingerbread Man. I didn't know that while I was watching these movies, so I was just really confused why he kept saying yes to these movies. We open up to Gingerdead Man on an island hitting on 3, of course, topless women, which ends up being more of a staple of the Evil Bong series than even weed. It's constant. There will always be boobs on the screen, which kind of just makes my job harder, honestly. I was kind of annoyed whenever that happened. Well, eventually we cut away from him and we meet Larnell again. And this guy.
How could I forget? You sound like a broken record.
They're opening some sort of weed shop. I don't know if this is supposed to be the same one from the last one and they're reopening or what, but it's a weed shop. It doesn't really matter. Oh, Felicity is also back, but she leaves kind of quick. This is the perfect movie to jump into because the start of the movie is a triple-decker flashback sequence to the first 3 Evil Bong movies. Isn't that awesome? So far, this movie is definitely a dip in visual quality, at least. The set is kind of ass, and it's the first one where most of the cast doesn't come back, so from this point forward, Bachman, Brett, and Alistair don't show up ever again. So that kind of sucks, but yeah, they're gone. I hope you liked Larnell. A bunch of random-ass characters show up to buy stuff. There's these meth heads. There's some super racist Asian characters that we'll address more later. Some weird pig guy that I really hate, and Rabbit. Rabbit's back, and he's here to sell some EB-branded Evil Bong merch. Okay. But he also brought a delicious gingerbread man cookie. I guarantee this isn't foreshadowing. Now, to be completely honest, the crossover doesn't make a lot of sense. Basically, Larnell just eats this gingerbread cookie and he's like, oh my god, this is so good, I need to get another one. He's like, Rabbit, where do I buy this? And it turns out that Rabbit got it from the bakery that's opening down the street that's being opened by the protagonist from the Gingerdead Man series. Who's the protagonist, you might ask? Luann. Luann's back. It's not actually Luann, it's Sarah. She plays multiple characters. It gets really confusing, specifically for this lady. Throughout all these movies, she plays 4 to 5, maybe even 6 or 7 characters throughout these movies, and I don't know why they did that. I don't know, but be prepared because anytime she shows up, she's probably somebody else. Oh, also, the Gingerdead Man is here and is killing people, and they kind of give us a flashback of the Gingerdead Man series. I really don't know what's going on in it. It's kind of just Gary Busey looking at us, complaining about how much he misses his mom. I'm not watching them. I refuse to watch the fucking Gingerdead Man. So, also the lady's name is Sarah, not Luann, so I'll be calling her Sarah from now on. Now, anyways, due to some random, crazy weed shenanigans and hijinks, they do end up back in the evil-ass weed dimension that seems to have gotten a facelift, I don't know. We also get a little cameo from my favorite character, King Bong.
You really asking who the fuck am I? I am King Bong.
Yeah, I do actually really like him though, so I'm not really complaining. But Gingerdead Man goes on the attack before getting dragged in front of the Poontang Tribunal, which is 4 characters. Apparently these guys are Gingerdead Man characters, but I can't actually confirm that because I would rather be shot in the street than watch Gingerdead Man. Now, he pretends not to be evil in front of them, so they let him go, and they just kind of believe him, but nobody else does, so they all get ready to bounce out of there. They all leave the evil-ass weed dimension. Evie just kind of traps him in here. She's like, oh no, Cookie, you ain't going anywhere. I don't really know why. They don't really say why or anything, but Rabbit's also here. He just didn't want to leave. Also, it's no longer an evil-ass weed dimension. It's now just kind of a cool, sick weed dimension. I don't know. It's not evil anymore. And that is really the end of the movie. Nothing really happens in this one. Oh, Larnell is cheating on Felicity with Sarah now, because that's a relevant plot point, unfortunately. But yeah, that happened. Overall, this one is by far the worst that I've seen so far. It kind of hits you with that Marvel movie expectation where they're like, oh, you want to watch this movie? You need to watch the 38 movies that came before it. Because keep in mind, this is like the 4th Evil Bong movie, and I think it's like the 3rd Gingerdead Man movie. So to understand like any of what they're referencing, you need to watch, what is that, 7 movies before you can even think about watching this one, which I get it. You know, it's a combination. I know they do that, but like, it's Evil Bong. You know what I mean? It's Evil Bong. Why are they expecting me to understand subtle references, man? Come on. I will say though, without a doubt, this one has the worst intro by far. I think they took it from Gingerdead Man instead of Evil Bong, but hey, Gary Busey was here. I know you guys like him. I know. Now, while I do think this is the worst one so far, it at least still had some semblance of a plot, so it wasn't terrible. You know, it wasn't like unwatchable. Keep in mind, I stopped ranking them during the movies at this point, so I don't really remember what I thought about it at the moment, but I'd rate this at like a C tier. I'd put this one at C tier across the board. It wasn't terrible. It's unfortunately really important for the rest of the movies that you watched this one. So you kind of need to watch it if you want to. I say need to watch it like this isn't the fucking Evil Bong series. But you get what I mean. I'm putting this at a C tier. I might change it later. Who knows? This is my list, not yours. Fuck you. Next up in the series is actually Evil Bong 420. Now, this is where I started to really feel the weight of watching 10 Evil Bong movies. I was also really sick when I started watching these, so it felt like I was high. Like, it felt like I was in some sort of crazy fever dream, and I didn't really know what was going on, you know what I mean? I think it was like 4 or 5 p.m. at this point. I don't know. It really started to form and click with me that I decided to watch all of these in one sitting, you know? I almost gave up completely. I almost just completely scrapped this video, just moved on to something else. But then I started thinking to myself, I set a goal for myself. I can't just give up that easily. I can't just sit down and give up when things get hard. And these are the Evil Bong movies, man. This is so corny. We open up to Rabbit finally getting out of the evil-ass weed dimension and opening a topless bowling alley. This movie actually centers around Rabbit being the main character, which is pretty much true for the rest of the series. So I really, really hope you like old pervy dude, because he's the main character now. Now, honestly, there really isn't that much to say about Evil Bong 420. It very quickly devolves into, hey, let's just throw a bunch of random characters from some of our other movies in here and have them like kind of joke around. Oh, and none of the women are wearing shirts. You guys like that, right? You'll keep clicking on this movie if we show you boobs. Like, I don't know. I feel like this one is where it starts to lose the point of the stupid stoner movies. You know, I've never really been that big of a fan of them, to be honest, but they at least usually have some form of a plot, you know what I mean? Like, usually it's friends going on these crazy, wacky, like, weed-filled adventures. You know, it's just a bunch of bros doing bro things. But there is no wacky adventure. This is literally just Rabbit running a bowling alley. They just bring in a bunch of characters and they're like, huh, this one's funny because it's super fucking racist, guys. You'll see what I mean in a second. You know, he's still selling some of the Evil Bong merch from the last movie, and my favorite implication here is he says,
Sell drinks to the kids in them. Tell their parents they're sippy cups.
but this is a topless bowling. What do you mean kids are coming here? I don't think they're going to be coming here, Rabbit. It might just not be the vibe for them, you know? Oh, also, he's using the bowling alley to sell weed because they had to work weed into the movie somehow, right? Some pig clown guy named Hambo comes in. I have to say, everyone in these movies was not as bad of an actor as I was expecting. I didn't really feel like I was watching actors. You know when you watch really bad movies, you feel like you're watching actors play characters? This one didn't really have that vibe until this guy showed up. This guy was so like rough on his lines that it was genuinely distracting to me. I don't know, the only scene from this movie that I really enjoyed was this completely like out of character shot.
You're kind of like a sick perv, but like in that fun uncle kind of way.
Thanks, I think.
I wouldn't let you babysit.
Now,
Like, this didn't even feel like it was part of the script. I think the actors said this out of character and they just kind of left it in because it was funny. The only real semblance of a plot occurs when Larnell comes in with Sarah, the baker lady, right? They're kind of sneaking around Felicity because he's still cheating on her and he's actually in love with both of them, but he just can't decide. Also, this lady honks at the pig guy.
Thanks, baby.
I don't know, I just wasn't expecting that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the director starts combining all of his movies here, which unfortunately forces me to bring up the 2013 movie Ooga Booga. Now, I haven't actually seen the original yet because this is an Evil Bong video, right? But a lot of the characters from Ooga Booga here in the next few Evil Bongs, like Hambo, he's from those movies. And at first glance, you might think that this movie is wildly racist. Like, seeing this cover, you might think this is a crazy racist movie. And that's because it is. Huh? Kind of. A brief summary of the movie is an African-American med student gets falsely murdered by some racist cops, so he resurrects as Ooga Booga, this like tribal doll, and hunts down and kills all the racist white guys in the movie, right? So it uses like racial caricatures of like black and Asian people as the main characters, but then they go in and beat the racist people in the end, so it's fine. I don't really know which way they were swinging it, because they could also just be really edgy and they thought it was funny. I personally, looking at this, think it's an over-the-top parody of racism to show how stupid it is, but they could also just be really racist. I don't know. It comes off as very heavy-handed and just like at a first glance, it just looks insanely racist. You know what I mean? And I don't really know why they show up at all. They have genuinely no plot significance ever. The main reason I'm complaining about it is, unfortunately, as far as YouTube goes, if anything in this video gets me demonetized or age restricted, it's gonna be this part. Felicity shows up and confronts Sarah and Larnell, and they decide to get into a bowling match over Larnell because he's such a hunk of a man that they both want him and are willing to put their bowling skills on the line for him. But all of a sudden, as they're doing this, the Gingerdead Man shows up again with a fucking gun. He broke out of the evil-ass weed dimension and tries to shoot all three of them. But before he can, Rabbit shows up with the weed blower, which he just sprays in your face and you get really high. There's a really funny scene where he does this to Sarah earlier.
Okay, I don't want to hear that name ever again. Every single time that we go out, all I ever hear is that name. Why don't I go find us a quiet place to sit down?
I just thought that was really funny. It looked like the actress wasn't expecting it either. But I don't know. Would that even get you that high? I guess. This makes Larnell's two girlfriends, Felicity and Sarah, have the hots for each other in a very like fan service, hey look, these two hot ladies are kissing way. Cool. But you know, everyone gets happy because he sprayed them all, and Gingerbread decides to bowl the last ball to like show his signal of friendship, right? Right as he does, the evil bong shows up and captures everyone into the evil ass weed dimension. And that's the end of Evil Bong 420. This one is easily one of the lowest entries, in my opinion. Even for this series, it has actually zero semblance of a plot at all. Characters start randomly getting thrown in that without watching 30 other random Charles Band movies, you wouldn't get at all. You have no idea who these people are, right? And I started to notice as these movies kept going on and the budget kept going down and down, the conversations between characters, these like random shitty conversations, they start to get longer and longer, and these movies honestly just start getting boring. I remember getting really bored right here, which was the last thing I expected to get. I mean, at this point, I had gotten used to the weed and all the weed jokes. I had gotten used to the crazy, like, raunchy scenes. I mean, even the terrible acting, I stopped really noticing. I just kind of felt like I was stuck in, like, a shitty film class. But imagine you're stuck there for 12 hours. And you're really sick. Like, you're really sick. I think I'd give this one a solid D tier. It truly had no plot. I think out of all of them, this one has the least plot, if that makes sense. It really was the most boring out of all of them. I don't know if I'd say it was the worst. Well, I definitely wouldn't say it's the worst one. That one's coming. But I don't know. Yeah, this one's just definitely the most boring out of all of them. They've also been pushing the line with the nudity every movie pretty hard, and I don't really care if there's nudity or anything in a movie, but the first one, the craziest thing you see is he's in a strip club and there's some boobs, right? It's nothing like crazy. I wouldn't have been embarrassed if like my mom came down and saw me watching this. But with this one, we get like a fully visible scene, you know what I mean, between one of the girls and the Gingerdead Man. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see the Gingerdead Man pull his little breadstick out. You know what I mean? I didn't need that in my life. And I swear to God, I started to feel physical pain every time I clicked onto the next movie. Speaking of which, we're on to Evil Bong 5, released in 2016. Right off the bat, this one is one of the worst movie covers, but it's also kind of like sick as fuck. I mean, they're riding the weed blower as a surfboard. That's sick, you know? But Evil Bong 5 opens up where we left off, with everyone stuck in the evil ass weed dimension, slowly having their essence drained, because that's kind of EB's whole goal, is to drain people's essence to get more power. They eventually strike a deal with EB, basically saying, hey, if we sell $1 million of weed in a month, you let us go forever, right? She agrees, but she takes Sarah and Felicity as collateral, so they're stuck in the evil ass weed dimension for pretty much the whole movie. Larnell, Rabbit, and Kung Fu Gingerdead Man, for some reason, I don't know why he's still here, but they all get beamed down to EB's cool ass weed shop where they get to sell all the weed. Now, to my absolute shock, Gramps is back. You know, usually when a B-movie character leaves a movie, they don't come back. You know what I mean? So I was kind of surprised. He's no longer the spitting image of every single Grateful Dead fan. He's back to like the Evil Bong 1 version. He's also brought along Jeff. He's supposedly Larnell's like super successful half-brother that Gramps is kind of bringing to show how successful Larnell could have been if he did anything right. He's also an up-and-coming streamer. Kind of like somebody else I know.
I've made it.
Please go watch my Twitch. Gramps just continues to brag about Jeff to Larnell, right? He's like, look at how successful you could have been if you did anything right, Larnell. I can't lie, it feels oddly sexual. It feels like he's more of like a Greek teacher to him, if you're catching my drift. I'm saying they're gay. Things very quickly devolve as a bunch more characters come in to, you know, buy stuff. And this movie specifically pissed me off. I hate this one. I hate this one so much. Hambo, remember the pig guy from like the last few? He shows up with those dolls from the last few, right, that he's been selling. And you know, I thought these were like a weird in-universe gag, right? I thought these were like some funny thing that you could buy in the movie, but it's not real, right? But then we get this scene.
We have recently procured a website domain for these high-end collectibles. Could you tell them where they can get these badass dolls, Piggy?
www.badassdolls.com.
Like old
They put a full advertisement in the movie. What? Like the fucking text shows up on the screen, dude. Like, oh, this made me so mad. This made me so mad when I was watching the movie. They just turn over. You can buy these at badassdolls.com. Fuck you, dude. They do this throughout the movie too. This isn't the only time, because every time a character comes in, they'd go like, oh, you'd make a badass doll.com. See what I did there? And they'd like take a picture of like Hambo or the Chinese dude or the super racist white guy or the gay stereotype they have called butt pirate. I don't know what his whole deal is, but he's here. It's just so lame. It genuinely shocked me that they stooped that low because I did not think they would do something like that. I genuinely believe they were like tight on money and made this entire movie just so they could sell those dolls, because there is no plot in this movie at all. They're trying to get the money for EB, so they start working with people, they start selling a bunch of shit, but they want to get more advertisements out there, so they work with Hambo to shoot an advertisement, and here's that.
If you're looking for weed, grass, koosh, pooch, stems, chemicals, stink, or skunk, go to one of our lousy competitors. But if you're looking for the finest of the fine, visit EB's Magical Weed Dispensary, because we have the finest in town.
It's totally great shit.
The weirdest one to me is there's this whole side plot where Hambo's like side character, I forget what her name is also Gingy's girlfriend that he like started dating in the fourth one, because that's a thing, but he's scared that she's cheating on him with the Ooga Booga doll guy. I'm at the point where somebody needs to look into this guy's history, because there has to be some weird traumatic shit that happened to him to make movies like this. What the fuck am I watching? The plot kind of ends here. They get the money and everything, but for some reason Rabbit masters the power of nothing that they reference a few times but never really explain it. Basically, he thinks of nothing and then stuff happens. This causes him to suck in Larnell, EB, and Gingerdead Man into his mind. Once they're inside, Larnell gets fully trapped in this really weird, like, outro sequence, and Gingy and EB start like floating around, and then they eventually fall, and they're like, oh my god, I think this is hell, and then like skeletons fly up and shit. How did they fall? How did they fall into hell? I don't know why I question anything in these movies anymore. That's the end of Evil Bong 5. This one is by far the worst. Mostly for the shilling that I mentioned earlier, but also just the fact that there was literally zero plot for this one. It felt like they just kind of showed up and pretended like this was a movie. Like the actors showed up to a random fake weed shop set and were like, all right, do your thing. Make sure to sell our dolls. Also, this is the last movie Larnell or Felicity appear in, so be prepared for nothing but Gingy, Rabbit, and EB from here on out. Oh, and Sarah Luann is here. I don't know what's going on with her, man. I honestly don't have much to say about this one that I haven't already said. All in all, I would put this one in the bottom of F tier. There is no movie that made me as angry as this one in the series. Like, this one actually pissed me off. Dude, I just watched 4 of your dog shit movies, and now you're trying to sell me something? No! No, I'm not buying that. What? It's just a caricature of an Asian dude that's named what? I'm not gonna buy that! What are you talking about? Remember how I mentioned that they start falling to hell at the very end in like Rabbit's mind? Apparently, that's how we end up with the next movie, Evil Bong 666. Ooh, scary. Evil Bong 666, released in 2017, gets even weirder. We come back to Phoebe from the bowling alley in the 4th movie as a Satanist for some reason. I don't know. She's got a new look, right? Now she owns the shop from the last movie after that whole thing ended. She's setting up shop, and then those meth head dudes come back, and she captures and sacrifices one of them to Satan, which is like her whole goal. She's like, I want to bring back Satan. So she sacrifices him to Satan, which opens a oddly shaped portal to hell, but not just any hell. This is sexy hell, baby. We're going to sexy hell. For some reason, she immediately just reaches in and grabs Ebi, the evil bong, you know. We find out Ebi, Gingy, and Rabbit have been trapped in evil hell, but unfortunately, Larnell is nowhere to be found. We find out what happens to him later, but you could kiss him as an actor goodbye. He's gone too. So is Felicity. Felicity doesn't come back either. Ebi and Phoebe start Ebi and Phoebe start talking and decide to team up, right? So she can get to sexy hell, and so Ebi can take over the world or something. I don't know. Her motives changed like 8 times. We suddenly cut over to this dude. Who is this, you might ask? Well, this is Killjoy. He is yet another Charles Band masterpiece that has 5 fucking movies. They cut over to introduce a new character into the series, Batty Boop. Basically, Larnell and Luann/Sarah, whoever that was, and Rabbit went to advertise the weed shop over at Killjoy's Killer Circus, right? Crazy weed-tastic hijinks occur, and Luann goes insane and believes herself to be Batty Boop now, which is a terrible name, by the way, but all you need to know is that she's some crazy clown woman now. Cool. Now, she's looking for Larnell, who, if you don't remember, is back in Rabbit's mind, so she starts trying to look for the weed shop, and while she tries to, she runs into this, like, mystic, like, fucking oracle woman. I don't know what I'm blanking on the name of what you call people that do this, but she's another new staple character. They make a reference to her being from a previous movie, but I genuinely don't know which one. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it. Maybe I'm just stupid, but she's new. My biggest gripe with this movie, and I don't know if this was like a bit or not, consistently throughout this movie, they sell and mention vapor cups, which are these things that look like cups, but they're actually bongs or like vaporizers or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. But every time they would mention it, they would bring up the price, they would show the box, they'd like hold it up to the camera, they'd be like, and maybe you want to buy one of these vapor cups. Oh my god, it was like number 5 all over again. And I don't know, it could have been a parody, like it could have been them making fun of people that do that in movies. But like, it felt like very real branding. And honestly, after 5, I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was a real ad. I was more disappointed in this one than angry, because it's one thing to advertise your own brand in your movie. You want to have like toys of memorabilia that you can buy in the background, whatever, you know? But to take another brand deal and just throw it in the movie like that is crazy. Like, at least have the decency to hide it in the background or something, like a Marvel movie, you know? Also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but Rabbit has a catchphrase that he says all the time, where anytime he sees boobs or anything, he just goes, Rabbit wanna grab it, and I just, it sends full body shivers down my spine. Phoebe, the Satanist, sacrifices 2 girls who, of course, are topless because they had to weave that in somewhere, which causes everyone in the room to get sucked into sexy hell except for Rabbit and Ebi. Honestly, this movie is really bad, but it kind of starts going back into the so bad it's good territory. Because remember the little dude from the 4th one? He's actually here, and he's sexy Satan.
Who are you?
I am Beelzebub, high priest of sexy hell.
He's technically like Beelzebub or something, but I like calling him Sexy Satan. I think this is a much better role for this guy. I liked him a lot more when he was doing this, and almost every single sentence he has, he says sexy hell somewhere in it, and it started to get me. I'm not gonna lie. Like I mentioned, Rabbit and Ebi are still back home, and they start formulating a plan to try to free everybody from sexy hell. And in probably the most effort they've ever put into any scene in any of these movies, they show like a parody Frankenstein sequence where they create the Gingerweed Man. He's like a combo of the Gingerdead Man and weed. Isn't that awesome? Also, he sounds like this.
I'm Gingerweed Man. I've been sent by Mom and Dad to save you.
I hate his voice, man. They send him off to sexy hell, and he challenges Satan to a smoke-off, right? And of course he wins, because he's the fucking Gingerweed Man. He saves the girls, and Batty Boop dances so hard she turns back into Sarah. Don't know how that works, but that's what happened. Also, in the middle of this dance, she fucking crushes the Gingerdead Man into a fine paste, and he's dead now. Everybody gets to leave sexy hell and live happily ever after, but we get a post-credit scene that not everything's all right yet, of Phoebe reforming the fucking Gingerdead Man. Why? This one was surprisingly a step in the right direction. While I do have some stuff to complain about this, you know, with the vapor cup thing, I still don't know if that was actually an ad or not, but whatever. Oh, and also how hard this one's gonna be to edit, because every time they were in sexy hell, the entire background is completely unusable because it's just boobs. Like, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but I would put this one in like a low C, high D tier. Don't get me wrong, it's no Evil Bong 1, but I think this kind of brought my spirits back up after how awful Evil Bong 5 was. I genuinely despise that movie. Oh my God. But you know, that's okay, we're in the home stretch now. We've only got 2 more movies left in the main Evil Bong series, and with the last one, I'm feeling a little hopeful. You know, my spirits were, I'd say, a little bit restored at this point. You know, I made some popcorn and I locked in for the night. I just completely stopped taking notes at this point. I'm gonna get a little looser with the story and everything, and more so just talk about my thoughts that I remember feeling, other than despair and dread to watch the next one. Now, this one, while I don't know if I'd rank it lower than 5, is definitely a noticeable low point in the series for me. And not even joking, I think the entire point of this movie was to be a tax write-off so they could go to Vegas. Sarah is the weird clown girl again for literally no reason. They don't even explain this. She's just Batty Boop again. I guess they like that character more. I don't fucking know. But we also come back to Phoebe. Sorry. Lucy Fur. They changed her name. This is now Lucy Fur. Remember that. Tries to open up a portal back to Earth, but she's just not powerful enough and she falls back in, right? And the gang see this and they're like, oh shit, she's still following me. So they decide to pack everything up and go to the one place Satan would never look for them. Las Vegas. What? Rabbit calls them a splift, which unfortunately is a really good business idea. If you live in LA and you want to start a business, hit me up. My favorite shot in this whole movie is when they're doing some like B-roll shots and Evie's hanging out the side, just like looking at the lights, and some random lady that is definitely not a part of the movie at all just starts screaming hell yeah to the car, and Evie just turns back and goes, shut the fuck up. That scene actually got me. I don't know. It was definitely not planned. They ask the driver to take them to the nicest show in Vegas, the coolest show in Vegas. So she drives them to Versnatchy's Fuppet Theater. What is Versnatchy's Fuppet Theater, you might ask? Well, the driver actually tells them.
What's a puppet?
The puppets
Yeah?
that fuck.
Yeah, I mean, they're puppets that fuck. So I can't show pretty much any of this, but I want to show the reveal of the puppet because, yeah, it's actually fucking terrifying. But yeah, this is by far the most graphic scene in any of the movies. We get full frontal from both of them, which doesn't even come close to happening anywhere else in the movie. But I lost all will to live at this scene. It was bedazzled. They finish the scene, unfortunately, and after that, their spliff driver takes them to what they requested, the poorest shithole in Las Vegas, which is actually this really fancy hotel. And they're all like kind of confused. They're like, why are we at this super fancy hotel? Until they realize it's haunted as shit. Also, is this the best set they've ever had? I think it is. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, damn, maybe the budget came back. They're going to Vegas, they're renting out a nice hotel, right? This is cool. They ring the bell and the 2 meth heads from earlier show up again as ghosts. And they own the building now from some freak accident. Everybody died, but they became ghosts here. I don't know. It's a long story that doesn't matter at all. This movie feels like they blew the entire budget on going to Vegas and renting this hotel because it's kind of a slog. A lot of this movie is just really boring, unedited dialogue between characters that's not super funny or interesting or really pushing the story forward. They're just kind of talking. I don't know. It got really boring really fast. Like, if you don't find those rednecks from earlier funny, skip this because the runtime is like 50% rednecks going, I tell you what. Oh, also, Rabbit sucks the shit out of this lady's finger. She needs to go get tested. That is not okay. We go back to Lucy Fur, who, thank the Lord, does not resurrect the original Gingy. Instead, it brings these 2 Gingerdead twins to life. I don't know. They don't really ever show up. I don't think they even have any actual lines, but that's not important. She starts trying to break back into the real world, and Rabbit and the gang, needing to get out of there because she's chasing them, find out that there's an EB's dispensary in this hotel. What are the fucking odds?
Probably really high.
But they go over and they find Phoebe! Remember the blonde one from the bowling alley that plays Lucy Fur? She's also here. Apparently they're twin sisters. They explain the whole situation to her, but right as they do, Phoebe arrives and has the head of sexy Satan They all run away, they flee the building, which culminates in a final chase scene through Tom Devlin's Monster Museum, which is a real museum where we see a bunch of actual horror exhibits. It's kind of fun. I don't know, I thought it was kind of fun meta like chase sequence, you know? Right before Rabbit is killed by Lucy, she gets dragged back into sexy hell for some reason, but this isn't the end, right? Because right before the ending happens, right before you think everything's fine and the day is saved, that fuck-ass Elvis sex puppet and the Gingerdead twins appear, which leaves the movie at a surprising cliffhanger that they don't normally do. Like, this was the most cliffhanger ending that I think they've had so far. I almost feel like I couldn't judge it as a movie because it felt more like I was watching like a really long vlog. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but Batty Boop has the hots for the Gingerweed Man, but he doesn't like her back, right? So while she's in the shower or some shit, he calls a call girl, and we get one of two full-on sex scenes, the other one being the Elvis puppet, in all of these movies. I don't know why they went so raunchy with this one, but this one was way further than any of the other movies. Actually, I just skipped it because I was like, I don't want to see a weed cookie have sex with a call girl. What am I watching? But that is the end of the movie. Now, I actually watched this one with my good friend Dolly. I almost felt bad for even showing this to her, you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of embarrassed for my own sake that I was like, hey, we should watch this movie. And then I checked out her channel and I didn't feel bad at all, but that's besides the point. I would put this one at a solid D tier. I would never recommend this movie to somebody, but it wasn't the worst in the series, you know what I mean? So I'd say it rests at a solid D tier. With that, we come to a fork in the road because there is another one. Gingerweed Man. He got his own movie. Now, much like Killjoy, I didn't really want to do this one because it wasn't an evil bong movie. You know what I mean? It doesn't have evil bong in the title. But the more I thought about it, he was made in the Evil Bong movie. I feel like it would make sense that he's technically a part of the Evil Bong series. I'll spare you the details. I'm not even gonna rank it, to be honest. I didn't like him in the Evil Bong movies. I thought he was kind of a weird, just thrown in there character. And this movie has literally nothing to do with any of the Evil Bongs. No other Evil Bong characters appear. This is a completely standalone adventure. He just like runs a dispensary delivery service. It's like Postmates, but fucking weed. You know the service GoPuff? I thought for a long time GoPuff was like a site that you order weed from, like DoorDash or something, but turns out it's not. Just saying, that would have been a really good name for one. I honestly really regret watching this one. It increased my runtime for everything, and I really just wanted to be done with this series at this point, but I don't know. It's whatever. That one out of the way, we are finally at the last Evil Bong movie, Evil Bong 888 Infinity High. Remember that cliffhanger, that awesome epic cliffhanger from Evil Bong 7, you know, where the Gingerdead twins and Evil Elvis is there? You can just throw that in the fucking trash because it's not a thing. They completely ignore it. We come back to Rabbit, who is now the owner of like a restaurant for some reason. Also, this was released in 2022, so it's been like 4 years since the last one. He seems to be trying to give up the weed and the perviness to, you know, pave himself a new life, you know, put all of that degeneracy behind him and turn a new leaf. No pun intended. And honestly, you know, I'm kind of rooting for him. Maybe he'll be all cool and defeat Evie and they'll finally turn her back into a villain or whatever, and Evie is the head chef. Never mind. Some lady who's not really plot relevant named Tom walks in, and we get all these really tired old gags that are like, Tom, you don't look like a Tom to me. Awooga, awooga. You know what I mean? Like, just, it's so lame. As far as these movies go, this one has by far the worst comedy out of all of them. Like, the jokes just do not land. It was painful. Some of these jokes were painful as fuck. It was like sitting through a commentary YouTuber stand-up set. It was really bad. That felt really mean. I'm sorry. I take that back. One of you's probably good. Now, this one is supposed to be the, like, grand finale, right? They're never making another movie again. I would be shocked if they make an Evil Bong 9 because they should have stopped at 3. But, like, I understand that they want to pull a bunch of characters, like, make a bunch of references and stuff. But, oh my god, they just start pulling characters out of their ass. It was bad. You know, it was just, there's too many. He has a chef named Salmonella who is, like, super German for some reason.
Your name is Tom. Is it?
His name's kind of funny, I guess. But apparently, Rabbit didn't order any of the food that he was supposed to for the kitchen, so the only ingredients they have to cook their delicious meals at this fine establishment is beanie weenies and a loaf of bread. Yeah. Rabbit starts freaking out. He's like, oh my god, this is gonna go horribly. So he gets ushered out of the kitchen, and Evie goes, I got a special ingredient, motherfuckers! It's weed, yo! Was that a good Evie impression? No. Yeah, I didn't think so. Why would you say that? The entire time, whenever something bad happens, Rabbit has this big degenerate button that's like, if I press this, I'll become a degenerate again. And he's like, come on, Rabbit. Don't press it, man. Come on, you're better than this, Rabbit. I don't know if it's because I was delirious or like actually brain dead at this point, or maybe I got so much secondhand smoke from watching the movies. I started to kind of root for him. I think this was the best acting he's had in all of these movies, and I genuinely, I felt bad for him. I wanted him to succeed and not go back to his old ways, mostly so I didn't have to hear him say Rabbit wanna grab it ever again. Anyways, 3 actual OnlyFans models show up. Real fucking Instagram models show up. They sit down, they order the food, they eat the food, and then in typical Evil Bong fashion, they like the food so much they just start ripping their shirts off, right? They just start throwing them in the wind. They're like, oh my god, this food is so good. I think I'm gonna take my shirt off. This is my problem with the latter half of these movies, is at least with the first one, they had some sort of justification for why the women were topless, right? It was supposed to be this like evil dimension of decadence to get you to let your guard down so she can harvest your soul, right? It had some sort of reason for it. This one is literally just, this food tastes good as fuck. Here's my tits now. I'm like, okay, cool. After the 4-year time gap, I was really expecting something different, but they really fall into the potholes of the last few movies. They just have this revolving door of awful cameo characters. Like the rednecks are back, and apparently they invested in crypto, so that's how they got all their money. I don't know. They make this like a bunch of crypto bro jokes, and I don't know. Also, the ghost meth heads are back for some reason. They're eating at the restaurant. It gets even worse. Firstly, a Karen comes in, right? And it is the most in-your-face, haha, look, Karen, bad. Look, this lady's so mean to customer service joke I've ever seen. Like, it's not even a joke at a certain point. It's just fucking boring. It kind of feels like those shitty comedy sketches where the comedian walks into like a coffee shop and they're talking to the barista, and the barista like fucks something up, and then they just use this as like an excuse to yell at a minimum wage worker. It just felt really like fucking lame. You know what I mean? It just felt really lame. After Karen's little scene is done, we go over to Sarah. No, sorry, wait, no, this is Luann? No, not even Batty Boop. This is Kendra, her 4th character in the movies. Now, these two are Barbie and Kendra from yet another Charles Band masterpiece, Barbie and Kendra Storm Area 51. These two just make jokes the whole time about like COVID and like, oh my god, we've never eaten in a restaurant since the whole pandemic and everything. Oh my god, can we even hug each other? Like, this is so crazy. Barbie starts going off about the pandemic, and she gets really close to the camera and she's like, guys, vaccines aren't real. You need to wait. These scenes are just so drawn out. We genuinely get like 5 minutes straight of just them talking, like no camera changes, no nothing happens. They're just talking. They're like, oh my god, what are you gonna order, Kendra? What are you gonna order, Barbie? I don't know. COVID isn't real. Guys, it's the pandemic. Guys, you need to wait. I felt like I was at a distant relative's house and I was sitting at their table for Thanksgiving and I just kind of had to listen to their conversation, you know what I mean? I personally think this series was completely murdered by their insistence on just random characters showing up and then those bits lasting for 10 to 20 minutes like it's a shitty SNL segment. They found the one joke, like the rednecks always saying, I tell you what. I get it. It's funny. He says, I tell you what, and he's racist. Cool. Get him off the fucking screen. I don't care. Anyways, the movie's story wraps up with the Karen storming off and calling the cops on Rabbit, right? They come in, they eat the food, and they realize there's a bunch of weed in the food. Oh, and also the 3 topless women in the background in his store. That I don't think cops usually are fine with that. But my favorite line out of, I think, any of these movies comes from this cop right here.
Are you running some kind of house of ill repute? Oh.
What the hell? He seemed like he wasn't even supposed to say that. Like, he was really scared, but he wanted to sneak a line in to prove that he's a good actor. And he got like really scared halfway through, but they left it in because they were like, yeah, this is kind of funny. This is Rabbit's breaking point. He finally breaks. He goes in and he smacks the red button. Sorry. You know, he pulls out this drawer. The button opens a drawer and he pulls out the weed blower from like the 4th movie, I think, is where they introduce it. But he starts blowing it in his face and everybody's face, and every time he like pulls out, I don't know if it's this one specifically, but just randomly throughout the movie, they'll play a bunch of different like weed songs. But this one specifically comes on a lot.
I think I smoked weed, and you sigh when he made me.
It's so bad. It like actually makes me cringe when it comes on. It sounds like a Logic song. You know what I mean? Like, this sounds like Logic made it. I feel like Logic would love these movies. He gets high as shit, gets grabbed by the cops, and then all of a sudden, he starts activating. Activating what? His realm of nothingness. Remember that? Remember the realm of nothingness? Yeah, he starts activating that. And then finally, after all this time, none other than Larnell comes back. Why does his shirt say that? Why does his shirt say that? What the hell? Larnell is back from Rabbit's head to send off the franchise because the franchise is dead. They're never making another one. I will personally
give all of the actors hugs.
EB shows up and transports everyone to the evil-ass weed dimension, except for one of the 3 topless women. I guess she had to go home early. She probably realized what movie she was in and went, yeah, I think I could do better, and left. Now, as one final fuck you from Charles Band, he added these stupid titty birds, these boob birds that fly around and they fly in front of the actors and behind the actors, and like one pans across the screen as like a wipe transition shot. All that does is make my job harder. Nobody's looking at that and goes, oh yeah, look at those titty birds, because they look like ass, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, why did he do that? I swear to God, there are a lot of choices in this movie that they made specifically to spite me. We're at the final scene now and they get really meta with it. EB goes, this is it. This is the big finale, and Rabbit just like looks at the camera, I assume out of character, and goes, we're done. We're all so fucking done.
I'm so fucking done. We're all done.
I believe he's being completely serious and out of character there, because can you imagine trying to pitch to this dude Evil Bong 9? I think he would kill himself. If that movie ever comes out, I will delete my channel. Guys, we are finally done with the Evil Bong movies. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, these movies sucked. Now look, I started these movies at about 2 p.m. on a Saturday and watched them all straight and finished at about midnight, I think. And I'm not even joking, I remember like 10% of that day. If you like walked up to me and asked me about any of these movies except for the first one, like a week's time, I don't even know if I'll know what you're talking about. Like, I'm gonna stare at you, you're gonna come up to me, it's gonna be like, hey, oh my God, how did you like Evil Bong 4? Can you tell me about it? I'm just gonna look at you like... But here is my final ranking for all of these movies. If I had to recommend any of them, I wouldn't. But the first one was kind of fun, I guess. I don't know. I started looking at it with like rose-tinted glasses towards the end because I was like, it's kind of all right. But yeah, this is the final ranking. If you don't agree with me, I dare you to go watch all of these, okay? All in all, while this series had a pretty fun stoner comedy start, it just started devolving to the point where I didn't even know what I was watching anymore, to be completely honest. I still think after all of these, 5 was easily its lowest point, by far. I mean, come on, selling dolls in the middle of the movie and putting the fucking link at the bottom. Be a little more subtle, guys. Also, just as an overall, the green screening and effects got noticeably worse as they went along. Like, starting at Evil Bong 5 onward, I started to notice more and more shortcuts and like green screen errors. I mean, the CG somehow kept getting worse even though they got closer and closer to the modern day. With that all being said, I think we have finally come to a close on the Evil Bong series. Now, there is still an Evil Bong extended universe out there. I think it was like 25 movies in total. Fucking crazy, by the way. And I seriously, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I would rather do anything else than watch those movies. But if you guys really, really like this video and really want to see more of this, I'll make an extensive EBEU video. If you like this video, let me know. I spent way too much time on this video, so if you could show me some support, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, make sure to go check out the Patreon. These lovely people helped me make all of this possible. I didn't put any of the first watches of these movies on there because there's some nudity and that felt kind of weird, but a lot of the times I'll put like first watches of movies on there or just random stuff that I want to throw on there. There's a lot of extra content there, so if you didn't get enough Prisky for today, you can go on over there, you know. With that being said, my name is Prisk, that's Reggie, and this has unfortunately been every Evil Bong movie.